Kylian Mbappé'S first hat-trick for Real Madrid. It took Abdulkader Hassanov 3 minutes to score a goal against Manchester City in his first match. Khvicha'S' outstanding debut. The Georgian winger shocked in Paris. And much more in the new issue of Dose of Football. Friends, the release is over. We are returning, so charge your royal likes so that we work without weekends. And I wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. Napoli was not lucky. A new contender for Alessandro Garnacho appeared on the horizon. And even the Argentine himself prefers this option more. Who would have thought that the fate of one of the brightest young players would change so quickly? Not long ago, his status in Manchester was close to being called the new Cristiano Ronaldo. Now the club management is considering a transfer. For a long time, Napoli was considered the main contender, the star of which moved to Paris. But the transfer market is dynamic. Everything in it changes at the snap of a finger. And now Garnacho is being touted to another club. British media are already reporting about the Argentine's move to Chelsea in London. Conversely, Christopher Nkunku may be leaving. I frankly don't like Chelsea as a new place for the player's development. Garnacho is good. I wouldn't want him to be marooned on the bench of the spare Londoners, similar to Nkunku or Joao Felix. In the flank of the attack, there is quite a competitive position at Chelsea. That's putting it mildly, but Nkunku's move to Manchester United looks interesting on paper. Versatile forwards who can capitalize on opportunities. Undoubtedly, he would fit in with many teams, including Manchester United's Robana Amarima. During the transfer window, much more successful teams, including Barcelona and Bavaria, were after him. The Catalans, for understandable reasons, refused the transfer, despite the football agent's recommendation. And the Munich club, as far as I understand, did not agree to the terms of the transfer. Now it's Manchester United's turn. In their economy mode, the Reds are not considering a full purchase of the player. Only a half-year lease is being considered, and the success of the deal will be determined by the club's functionaries. They have to convince their colleagues from Chelsea. Remember, only a few days remain until the transfer window closes. There is no more time for major negotiations. All parties need to make a decision about the future of their footballers now. Despite the claims of the English media, both deals seem unlikely to me. Chelsea wants to sell Nkunku, but Manchester is not ready to pay 70 million for him. However, there is no point in moving to the London bench. You need to play and earn a reputation while you're young. And Chelsea can't guarantee him a place in the base. Salah's future remains as uncertain as before. I was gone for almost 2 weeks, but there was no movement on the contract extension during that time. And the Egyptian continues to be closer to leaving the Merseyside club than to staying there. Many sources often write about a transfer to Saudi Arabia. Al Hilal, who offers a lucrative 3-year contract, is ready to welcome him with open arms in Saudi Arabia. The Egyptian would become a strategic replacement for Neymar, but there were also rumors that Salah believes in himself and wants to continue performing on the European stage. Among the grandees from the Big Five, Barcelona seems to be the main contender. Despite the dubious methods, Jean Laporte somehow manages to deal with the financial mess. In the summer, the situation may stabilize so much that the Blue Grenades will even afford a free transfer of the falling one. I'm sure by summer, the competition for such a classy player will reach its peak. Even now, the names of other contenders are being mentioned, among which is Bavaria. Salah's move to Bavaria would give Kane more chances to win trophies. It could have been a great partnership. Harry likes to play with fast wingers, said former Bavaria footballer Dietmar Hamann. This summer, Munich will drastically clean up the attacking ranks. Salah's potential competitors in the face of Kingsley Coman, Leroy Sane and Serge Gnabry are likely to leave the club. In such a case, the Munich collective will have a reason to negotiate a contract with Salah. If we read between the lines, it's unclear what awaits the Egyptian in the future. European giants are interested. Saudi clubs are eager to sign the rising star player. Liverpool also wanted to negotiate with him about the extension, although such an outcome seems less likely. But even in such uncertainty, Salah's game remains superior. Players often lose focus due to the immense pressure they face. And yet the Egyptian seems to have long decided on his future, and is conducting this season in such a way as to add to his trophy collection, once again make history for Liverpool, and become the second African owner of the Golden Ball. It's too early to make such far-reaching forecasts, but the chances are really great. A real battle has flared up for Alexander Zinchenko in the winter window. Even the status of a strong player scares off European grands. Many needed such a versatile footballer. The main contender for him was Inter Milan. I personally didn't see much sense in such a transfer. But for Nerazzurri, such practice is common. They love to snap up players who have lost their place for a song, and then they try to integrate them into their lineup. However, Arsenal's management sees Zinchenko's transfer differently. The Gunners want to earn something from the sale of the Ukrainian, so they rejected Inter's offer to transfer the defender on loan without an option to buy. Now there is another contender for him, Borussia Dortmund. I also have questions about the purposefulness of this transition. The Bees are fully focused on the defense's left flank. Sharp and technical Julian Ruersen can play there if attacking edges are needed, or reliable Romeo Bensebaini if there is a need to emphasize defense. It's unlikely that Zinchenko will drop any of them from the squad, unless the management is preparing for the arrival of a new coach. Rumors suggest it could be either Niko Kovac or Erik ten Hag. It's important for the Dutchman to have control in the center of the field, and here he can really help Zinchenko. Kovac, as far as I remember, according to his track record, specializes more in counter-attacking play. A slow Ukrainian, probably, will be an extra burden in his team. That is, if Zinchenko moves to Borussia, in my opinion, it will mean the arrival of Erik ten Hag or another coach of a similar plan. It's even interesting to see what kind of Dutchman will be without Manchester pressure. But let's get back to Zinchenko's transfer. The Ukrainian is also considering Atletico Madrid and one unnamed English club. Maybe Bournemouth, in whose team his compatriot Ilya Zabarny plays and who may soon part with one of his flank defenders. There are sufficient contenders for Zinchenko. Only a week remains before the transfer window shuts. Will the Ukrainian be able to find a new club in such a short time? Some Brazilian soap opera has heated up with Neymar's return to Santos. The importance of the upcoming Al Hilal match is no longer in question. The management has agreed to let him go in all four directions. After all, holding back the striker in the team will mean multi-million losses. There was a period when the management was doubting whether it was worth parting with him. But lately, the emphasis is specifically on Al Hilal's desire to get rid of the footballer. Over the past month, the Brazilians have settled in Inter Miami, then in Barcelona, then in Santos. It appears the rumor has concluded, and the footballer is getting ready to return home humbled. But with this transfer, things are far from simple. Santos has only just returned to the elite of Brazilian football, and the club's budget is far from being in the best shape. Neymar could have sacrificed his finances to write such a beautiful story at the end of his career. In the end, Al Hilal fully paid him for those 5 matches that he played for the team. But the Brazilian decided on an unprecedented step. In order to regulate Santos' finances and get a good offer for his favorite, Neymar is planning to buy the Brazilian club. By acquiring a portion of Santos' shares, he will essentially be paying his salary out of his own pocket. I don't remember such stories in big football, when the owner of the club played for his own team. It's even a little strange. Try not to let him out in the starting lineup now. After all, he can fire himself. Buying clubs is no longer such a big deal. Many top footballers, especially in recent years, invest money in club shares, gaining the right to manage the team for it. Here, fans of the French can are already driving Mbappé out of the club after he worked for half a year in the owner's position. Like he worked, we understand perfectly well that the falling Real has nothing to do with managing Khan. But his former partner in the passage surprised me, of course, with his decision not just to return to Santos, but to buy this club. But after the end of his career, he will have something to do. Ruben Morima's arrival signaled impending changes at Manchester United. The players that Erik ten Hag bought so actively do not fit the philosophy of Portuguese football in many ways. Also, there were some individuals in the Red Devils squad whose transfer has long been sought. It's even interesting to see what Manchester will look like after the summer window, but there's still a lot of time until then. Let's talk about pressing issues. Now, onto the story of the day, including the transfer of Marcus Rashford. Ruben doesn't put anything into the English striker. He doesn't even declare him for matches. By this point, Rashford hasn't appeared on the field in 10 matches. You don't even need to go far to understand what prospects await him in Amorim's team. It seems that Barcelona is ready to take him. Catalan media have long been discussing the possible move of the Englishman to Camp Nou. His lease doesn't seem like such a bad option. However, the issue of finances remains a pressing concern for the Catalans. Rashford is not a cheap thrill. In Manchester, he earns 18 million a year. Barcelona is preparing to sign him on a half-year lease. So they will have to find an extra 9 million to cover the incoming player's salary. That's a bit too rich for a footballer with unclear prospects. And clearly with an eye on the bench for substitutes. Barcelona is ready to pay him 2/3 of the requested amount. If the Manchester United management agrees to pay the remaining 3 million, or if Marcus himself makes concessions for the transfer to Barcelona, then the deal will potentially become interesting. The Catalans could use reinforcements now. Fighting on all fronts with a short bench is quite a task. For some time, Hansi Flick found ways to solve it, but 11 identical players can't consistently maintain the same level of football. Especially in such a dense schedule. Moreover, no one has cancelled injuries. The deeper the bench, the higher the team's chances of success. Chelsea is actively proving this to us now. But Barcelona doesn't have their own Todd Boyle, capable of spending 1.5 billion in 2 years at the head of the club. Therefore, players have to be evaluated based on the ratio of price to quality. No matter what anyone says, the transfer of Kylian Mbappé greatly affected Real Madrid. Sometimes not for the better. We all remember how hard it was for the Frenchman in the beginning. Only the support of his partners helped to keep the statistics further from catastrophic values. But with the start of the season, Mbappé's individual performances heated up even more. It's as if he began to better understand what is expected of him and how to achieve it. But for the sake of good play, some Frenchmen had to make sacrifices. Could this be the secret to success? Venice is not as good as he was last season. He had to adjust to the new star of the team, which noticeably dimmed the brightness of the Brazilian's performances. And although his teammate Rodrigo was used to being in the shadows, this season there were rumors that he too wanted to take on leading roles. So what's my point? For me, the ideal setup for Real Madrid seems to be a 4-4-2 formation with a diamond in the center of the field, so that Bellingham can periodically appear in the attacking position. With such a setup, one of the flank attackers should leave Madrid. There has been a lot of talk about Vinicius and his transfer to Saudi Arabia in recent months. I don't rule out that the Brazilian will delight those who have gone to the Middle East, but Rodrigo is also a great asset, and they will be happy to buy him next summer as well. They won't even have to go for record financial expenses to acquire the Brazilian winger. His price will be significantly lower than the potential sale amount of Vinicius. According to journalist Abdel Bouma, the passenger is ready to move Rodrigo if such an option appears. Last summer, I would have said that Parisians have changed their transfer policy, making a hit on a more sensible distribution of spending. It's unlikely they will start spending hundreds of millions on buying Rodrigo, considering that the position of the right winger does not need strengthening. But the transfer of Khvicha'S for 70 million with a lively and beautiful Bradley Barkley somehow cast a shadow of doubt on such a course of thought. Now, I think that the passenger with a high probability will want to buy Rodrigo in the summer if Real Madrid puts the player up for transfer or if the Brazilian himself expresses a desire to leave Madrid. Napoli has replaced Khvicha'S with Kvaratskhelia. The Georgian winger could be called one of the most important players of Antonio Conte's team without any doubt. Losing a key footballer is bound to reflect on the team's results. Perhaps at the moment, Azzurri doesn't feel any problems. There are people in this team who can score and make passes, but in the long run, Napoli risks missing out on points due to the sale of Khvicha'S. That's why the club's management now needs to minimize the consequences of Gruzin's departure by signing a suitable replacement for him. The option with inviting Garnacho was good, but it somehow didn't work out. Now, the management of Azzurri has set their sights on Borussia Dortmund's winger Karim Adeyemi. The football world talks about his talent too infrequently. And the guy is really good. Borussia was undefeated while he was available. But as soon as Adeyemi went on the hospital bed, the team's results immediately went downhill. And when he left, it turned out that Borussia will now play under the guidance of a new head coach. And everything started off so well. Well, in general, Adeyemi can leave Westfalen following Nureyev. With the falling, it will be a routine transfer rather than a mid-season shameful dismissal. Rica Roman says the deal is nearly complete. And if this Italian insider is already speaking in such a key, then I see no point in doubting the reality of the transfer. Napoli will pay Borussia 40 million euros in compensation for Adeyemi. and this amount does not seem large to me for such a skillful winger. He's unlikely to appear in the new championship immediately, but it's not a cause for concern. Ademi somehow managed to replace Hicho with a pair with Davido Neroso. For the past month, he has been dealing with patching a hole on the attack's left flank. He manages, of course, not as well as his predecessor, but he does not lose his merits. After Ademi's transition, Napoli's leadership may not survive the left edge of the attack. Yesterday, the transition of Manchester legend United Anthony to Real Betis was completed. The newly baked Brazilian partners even surpassed Mallorca in joy, approaching the Eurocup zone. Anthony will be performing for Betis on lease rights for half a year. His fate remains unknown. No buyout options were reported. Yes, it's hard to imagine that Betis has the resources to buy a player so important to all of European football. The leadership's motivation is understandable. It's necessary for Antonin not to sit on the bench and to build up his value. In such a case, in the summer, some money can be made off him, possibly recouping half of his transfer costs from Ajax. Well, we wish him luck. I liked his football while he was playing in the Netherlands. But then the footballer moved to Manchester and just became a meme. Now he will have to wash off all this English dirt in Seville. I hope he succeeds, and we will see the Anthony of Ajax times again. By the way, since we're talking about Betis, there's an important news for the fans of the Andalusian club and Barcelona. Brazil's Palmeiras unexpectedly offered the Catalans 27 million for 80% of the rights to Vitor Roque. Betis rented the same Brazilian this summer, but it's unlikely that Barcelona's management will refuse such a chance to earn, adjusting their financial performance. This transfer, like Anthony's move, is currently closer to failed deals. And if they return almost the full purchase price for him, then no one will talk about wasted money. You may logically ask, where does the Brazilian club get such a large sum of money? Palmeiras has earned quite well from the last 3 sales. More than 100 million euros. Specifically, the club management plans to take the money to buy Roque from the funds raised from the sale of Vitor Rice to Manchester City. If the parties can agree on the deal, then Betis will lose its main forward. But on the other hand, why does he need some Roque if a guy with such a great momentum will now play for the team? Lionel Messi made it clear that his life in the United States of America is only temporary in his head, and he has only one real home. Sources close to Messi's family say his wife Antonella Rocuzzo revealed the Argentine has already decided his future. He will leave Miami when his Inter Miami contract ends. In a personal talk with the girl, Messi said, "No, my place is there," referring to Barcelona. These words mentally caused a storm of emotions among the fans of the Catalan club. The contract with Inter Miami is valid until the end of 2025. But the club owner Jorge Mas hopes that Leo will stay longer. Leo and I will sit down and discuss the future. As I've said before and I'll repeat now, I fully expect that for the opening of our new stadium in 26 and the start of the Major League Soccer season in 26, after a trophy-laden 25 season, Leo will be our 10th, Mas said. But now it seems that Messi himself does not share these plans. Barcelona has long dreamed of the return of its legend. Club president Joan Laporta has already tried to lure his brother, but then Leo chose the United States of America. Now, when the Argentine himself has made it clear that his future is tied to Catalonia, this scenario becomes more and more real. Messi is unlikely to return to Barcelona as a footballer. At least not for a long time, except maybe for 6 months or less, just to pay tribute to the fans of the Blue Granite Club. But other roles are not excluded. I still see the Argentine in the position of a sports director. With his connections and authority, he can secure himself a job after his football career. In my opinion, this is the perfect solution for everyone. Messi wants to return to Barcelona, and Porto dreams of his comeback in any form to justify themselves in front of the fans. Well, after his career in Inter Miami, the Argentine can pop into Barcelona for at least 2 weeks as a player, and then ceremoniously receive a new position of sports director from the president. And it seems like everything is in the win. It's only been a week since Khvicha'S completed his transfer to Paris Saint-Germain. The upcoming player has just recovered from an injury, and I didn't expect to see him in the starting lineup for the match against Reims. Nevertheless, Luis Enrique gave a break to Bradley Barkley, who twisted in the middle of the week while trying out the newcomer in the French midfield. In the first half, the Georgian winger tried to find his football. He didn't show a good game, just like the whole Paris Saint-Germain in general. Still, the coach released an experimental lineup. On Wednesday, his team faces a crucial Champions League match against Stuttgart. And in the second half, the thick we're used to seeing in Naples appeared on the field. Technical, with a good understanding of his position and the positions of his opponents. It was exactly this Kvaratskhelia who scored the first goal of the match. In a tight space, he got past Reims' defense and kicked the ball to Nabmele. The Frenchman made a shot and the ball ended up in the net. Paris Saint-Germain's lead was short-lived. Minutes later, Reims tied the game. And then they even took the lead. Parisians didn't resist the outcome. The tournament table allowed them to play half-heartedly, and it was visible. But I really want to give credit to Reims goalkeeper Ivan Adufa, a wonderful goalkeeper who plays for a modest team. But this summer, he simply has to go for a promotion. Khvicha'S, however, had a good match for a rookie. He was active, created a scoring chance, put pressure on Reims' goal. He played well enough to be in the video title. Review of Khvicha'S debut performance? Find us on our Telegram channel via the link in the description and in the pinned comment. Football never stops there, even when we take a break on the channel. I also want to go over the other matches from yesterday's game day. Believe me, there's plenty to discuss. Of course, first and foremost, we should talk about Abdulkadir Husanov's debut for Manchester City. Pep Guardiola threw the young Uzbek into the deep end in his very first game for such a prestigious club. Husanov had to withstand a well-coordinated attack from London's Chelsea. Obviously, he survived. Already in the 3rd minute, Husanov brought the moment to his gates, which ended with the first goal. But they didn't blame the young defender. The mistake lies with the gods, who despite understanding football assigned such a critical task to the young debutant. In the first half, City appeared to anticipate another defeat. However, Chelsea inexplicably failed to return to the field for the second half. In the end, the citizens, with Holland in the lead, punished the London guests. Real Madrid has a 10-point lead over Barcelona in the Spanish Championship standings, despite the winter season in Madrid and other places. In the last round, Slivocne defeated Valladolid, thanks to the debut hat-trick of Kylian Mbappé. Despite a slow start, the Frenchman is already striving to compete for the season's top scorer title. He is only one ball away from the leading Robert Lewandowski. Considering the Pole's form, Mbappé could overtake him in the next round. Despite the absence of their leader, Kvaratskhelia, Napoli beat Juventus, marking the Turin team's first defeat in this Serie A draw, an event that cannot be overlooked. Losing to the leader is not a disgrace. It's a disgrace for Juventus to be in 5th, trailing the Champions League spot by 5 points due to losses. Max Allegri was fired last season for less, and today everything is lost. Thank you for watching and subscribing to the channel. My name is Kirill Kast, and that was your daily dose of football. Peace to your house and its inhabitants, friends.